Hello and welcome along to episode 312 of the Total Saints podcast, your home for all things Southampton Football Club. A huge thank you, as always, to our TSP Patreon community because we couldn't make the show each week without your support. And we're also live streaming this episode on Facebook, X, Twitch, Instagram, and YouTube. So good evening if you're watching along live. Coming up this week on the podcast, it was top versus bottom at Anfield. And to be honest, we were all fearing the worst. However, it wasn't the cricket score we were expecting. Why was that? We will get into that very soon. And there are probably, I make it, two vaguely winnable games left this season. The first of those is on Saturday when Wolves visit St Mary's. We'll preview that game for you. My name is Martin Starke, and joining me this week are Steve Grant, who is the owner of Saints Web, Alfie House is senior Southampton reporter at the Daily Echo, and Glen is writer of the blog League 1-10. Welcome along, everybody. And now on paper, that should have been the greatest mismatch of the season, really. The 58-point gap between us and Liverpool prior to kickoff was the largest between any two teams meeting in the Premier League since July 2020. Alfie, you were there for this one. After 28 games, we finally see to have a manager that abandoned his principles and set up a team to play for our, albeit limited, strengths. And what a difference it made.
Yeah, we all could have told Ivan Juric weeks ago, and we did, that it wasn't going to work what he was trying. And he said something interesting after the game, actually. I think he said, in regards to the shape, that at this point in time, the players need to be closer together. And I think he means literally closer together. So he's clearly relaxed this man marking system. Glen shakes his head, but I mean, they were closer together in the sense that the back four weren't sort of following the opposition players all around the pitch. They sort of knew their positions. They had two midfielders in front of them who, admittedly, the two midfielders in front of them didn't stop much, to be fair. They had different merits in the game. But they looked more solid, and that first 45 minutes was really brilliant. And interestingly, that back four was the back four. Carl Walker-Peters, Harwood-Bellis, Jan Bednarek for about 10 minutes, and Ryan Manning was the back four last season, wasn't it? So as well as being closer together, literally, physically, they're also probably closer together in terms of relationships and sort of knowing how they work. And I think that maybe played a part as well, because Ryan Manning was really good actually for that first 45 minutes. And I think Curtis Jones missed one chance for Liverpool, a good chance. I think Aaron Ramsdale saved one from Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. But other than that, for that first 45 minutes, I thought Southampton looked fairly comfortable defensively. It was getting to their box a lot, but they were stopping it when it came there. And Ryan Manning a couple of times was that. He was exceptional in that first half. And then, they keep going. They get that goal at, right before half-time, and they're deserving of their half-time lead. And obviously what comes next is lack of concentration, quality showing, and obviously a bit of sort of VAR Rogery as well, unfortunately, in my opinion, with at least one of them, whether that's the Darwin Núñez non-red card or the penalty, which I don't think should have been a penalty. At least one of those probably should have gone the other way, but you're never going to get a decision like that at Anfield. And I think 3-1 defeat before the game, we probably would have taken it. We saw 4-4-2, two strikers, neither of them actually strikers, interestingly, but it kind of worked. The only two players I think who didn't really get into the game were the two wide players. Kamaldeen Suleiman had a couple of moments, and Tyler Dibbin had a poor game. Didn't get into it. When he did, his touch was bad. But other than that, I thought everyone sort of had their merits on the day, and it's a shape that hopefully we'll see against Wolves, because it looks like it's just simpler, easier for the players. You know where everyone's going to be, and they can't do the extravagant stuff. We've seen that. So yeah, shame it's taken 28 games, as you sort of said, but I liked what I saw.
Well, we'll get into the VAR stuff and the penalties and who should have been sent off and who wasn't in just a moment. But Glenn, it was nice to see two centre-backs, full-backs on the correct sides, no man-to-man marking. We've been calling out for this for weeks.
Yeah, and I thought all four of the players, obviously Bednarek didn't last very long, but the four that played the majority of the game, I thought they all had decent games. I was in Harwood-Bellis, I thought was really, really good. I think it's the best game I've seen Ryan Manning have in a back four, certainly at Premier League level. It was just a simple job, and playing in a back four and playing your area of the pitch. That's how all these players grew up playing, probably. And I know it's changed a lot these days with Pep Guardiola's influence on football and stuff like that. But they just everyone just looked more comfortable. And the main thing for me is, and I saw Alfie's questions for the manager afterwards. Because we were compact, we sort of protected the areas of Will Smallbone's game where that he's not so good at. He's obviously not great when the play is open and there's large areas of field that he's got to run into. It just, that's just not his strength at all. But keeping the back four and the four midfielders relatively compact, that certainly helped. And it was round pegs in round holes, which is what we've been calling for. I mean, the reason I was rolling my eyes when Alfie was talking earlier on is that how has it taken him this long to realise this? I mean, you could argue that, when we went to Arsenal with Russell Martin, we lost 3-1. And it was a similar kind of shape we employed then. So, I mean, I wouldn't go overboard and say he certainly cracked it. At the end of the day, we were playing 4-4-2, but the two were both number 8s, weren't they? Really, they weren't. I mean, it was Fernandez and Grombeck who played the furthest forward, but they weren't pushed on Van Dijk and Konate or anything like that. They were playing very, very deep. And I'm at a bit of a loss to explain how we did create chances in that first half. Well, we won a lot of corners anyway, and then got the goal, which is basically them dozing off at a set piece, and then they're two world-class players running into each other. That was quite funny, actually. It's nice to know that even the best players in the world we can bring them down to our level. I mean, I watched their game against PSG. I don't know if you've seen it. Alisson Becker's performance in that was just extraordinary, and for him to mess up against us was nice to see. But it was a positive in that we didn't get hammered. Though, we're going to talk about. Someone's going to talk about the Darwin Núñez thing. I think even if he had been sent off, we probably would have found a way to lose. It was just that they upped the pace in the second half, which they were always going to do after half time, and we just didn't really deal with it. But we weren't helped, put it that way. But so it was overall it was better than what I expected, but. Because I don't know what my score prediction was at the end. I can't imagine it was terribly optimistic.
4 or 5.
It was 4 and 5s across the board, wasn't it, last week?
Yeah. And there's other reasons, of course, why Liverpool weren't quite on it in the first half. They made a few changes and they had the game against PSG. But no, it was good to get out of there without getting embarrassed, really.
So just the last bit, Steve, on the formation. Why has the penny suddenly dropped now? Is it because he's had like 11 days to work on it, maybe? Or was it the rumours about his job this week as well?
I genuinely don't think he'll be the slightest bit bothered about those rumours. I think he would have come into this job with his eyes wide open and knowing realistically what was going to be the likely sort of chain of events. In that, okay, you give me an 18-month contract, but realistically we're a lost cause already, and nobody's going to want me sticking around come the summer if things continue to go badly or even get worse, which they kind of have done. So yeah, I don't think he'll be particularly fussed about the sort of outside noise, if you like. I actually just think that it's maybe the run of games that we had just before the little break that we've had maybe kind of just finally sort of clarified things, really. I mean, I guess you could argue that we've not really had huge amounts of time to prepare for anything over the last 2 months or so, because there's often been a midweek round of games to deal with, or we've had a key player who would be making up sort of an important part of the system unavailable. So we've had to kind of cobble together things, especially defensively. We've missed players for multiple games, and it's made a bad defense even worse. But as you said just now, it's the first game where we've actually had last season's back four in place. I mean, yeah, okay, we still conceded 60 odd goals last year, but as Alfie said, there's a there's kind of a synergy there. They kind of know each other's games. They know when they've got to cover somebody else. They kind of recognise the issues that individuals have, and you can kind of make allowances for it and kind of cover in sort of preemptively. And yeah, it was noticeable that Liverpool's XG in the end was something fairly silly. I think it was about 4, which didn't feel like it really reflected the quality of the chances they created. To be honest,
2 penalties there, isn't it? It's making up for 1.8 of that.
The penalty counts as what 0.76 or something like that each.
Yeah.
We'll come on to the decisions in a sec, I assume, but when you're basically handing the opposition those sort of chances, like literally right in front of goal, then it's not ideal. But I thought overall there was a structure to the team. You could see that there was a plan. You could see that they prepared very well for it. And when you get in at half time and you're 1-0 up at Anfield, I mean you know that home dressing room is going to be pretty fiery at half time. It doesn't matter who the manager is. If you're top of the league and you're getting done 1-0 by the team that's only got 9 points from the best part of 30 games, then there's going to be words said. I mean, they made a triple sub, and you could see like within a minute and a half that they were stepping up the pace already. That we'd effectively gone into the pit and poked the bear, and then kind of act surprised when he turns out to be a little bit angry. I think it's frustrating the way the goals came about, because actually for the most part we defended the shape really well. But again, it's individual moments, whether it's a moment of quality or a moment switching off, that's cost us what would have been an absolutely mental result. I think we were 20-1 just to win before the game, which I think is the longest odds of any single Premier League game this season. I think Ipswich were only 18 or 19, so we were longer than them. And obviously there'd have been a few at the start of the season on similar terms as well. But yeah, if we'd come out of there with anything, then it would have been a huge shock. But ultimately, I think if you go up there and you ride your luck, you've got to ride your luck, because you're not getting the decisions your way. Then you deserve something out of it. But
that's bad, though, isn't it, Steve? We all say, and I said it a minute ago, you're not going to get a decision at Anfield, you never get them. But the fact that we say that and that it's actually true is just
it's a nonsense in the game, and it's
always been the way, though.
I mean, even back in the old days when there was actually a chance of a team of our size winning the league, sort of and competing on a regular basis as we did in the 80s, you'd still go to Old Trafford, even when Man United were crap. You'd go to Old Trafford, and you'd never get a result. You'd never get a decision go your way. Same at Anfield. You just don't get it, and it's ridiculous that is the case. I mean, the game is already stacked in the favour of the big clubs without these kind of nonsense advantages. I mean, take that first penalty as a...
Well, let's go through them in order. Let's start with the foul on Walker Peters. That Nunes foul on Walker Peters, Alfie. I mean, that was checked by VAR, I think. In your opinion, should he have gone? It was the way that Carl reacted to me, the fact he got up and was after him, and he doesn't do that. You don't normally see that from him.
I think to be fair, in that was 50-50. At the time, I watched it on the replay, and I watched it obviously in real life, and I wasn't that annoyed that one wasn't given, but I can understand why people are saying it is. So maybe I'm not the best person to come to for that one, but I wasn't sat there furious and saying he should have definitely gone. Although I can see the argument for it. The second one for me is the big one. All right, there's some contact, but Will Smallbone barely even moves his leg towards Darwin Nunes. He sort of falls with his other leg before the contact. So that's for me the contentious one. And then number 3, obviously Sugawara. I mean, he's just made a silly mistake, and actually the same mistake he made against Liverpool in the first game.
Let's get your thoughts on those then, Glenn. The foul on Walker-Peters, which was checked by VAR, and then obviously that penalty, which comes at a key moment in the game where, Smallbone doesn't follow through, does he? Joe Hart, I think on Match of the Day, said he thought it was a Stonewall penalty, but just him and the referee, I think.
Yeah, I mean, well, the foul on Walker-Peters, he'd obviously lost his head, Nunes, for some reason, some imagined problem that he had with everything. There's been a lot of noise recently about deliberate fouls. Usually they're talking about pulling people back. Mm-hmm. And you see commentators all the time saying, that should be, it's between a yellow and a red. That's an orange card. Well, for me, that what Nunes has done there, it's totally deliberate. So that's the first thing. And there's some violence behind it. Mm-hmm. It's not that he's just like pulled him back or he's just sort of caught his heel or anything like that. He's basically wellied him one. And to me, I think it's probably not beyond the threshold for getting sent off as a home player at Anfield. But if Ryan Manning had done that to Mo Salah, he would have been having a very short afternoon. There's just, and you won't convince me otherwise of that. I mean, Steve said it happens at Anfield. It happened before VAR, and like an idiot, I thought VAR was going to correct this sort of thing, and the big clubs wouldn't get every decision. But it's just as bad, obviously. Is another reason for getting rid of it. And it's just, disappointing. But I'm not surprised that he wasn't sent off. And it's just sod's law that the bugger scores straight away, doesn't he?
And he's shushed the crowd as well, by the way. He's shushed the away.
He ran 60 yards to do that.
He is such a strange fella.
Yeah,
it's like snowflake. It's like such a thin skin.
Levi Colwell during the week giving it the big one. He scored against Southampton. Well, no, that's all I want to say about that. It's just like, Pillock, shut up. But but the penalty shout. I mean, I don't think it's a foul. You're fuming if that gets given against you. He's barely touched him, and he's just crumpled in a heap. He's lied on the ground pretending to be injured as well, and it's just. I mean. The referee was a relatively young ref. I think he had a good game. It's only his 5th Premier League game. So if he doesn't give it, they probably can't. They probably don't overturn it and give a penalty. But once he's given it, there is a modicum of contact, even though
it took forever to actually give it as well. By the way,
I just think it was a young ref at Anfield under pressure sort of thing, and maybe that's being a bit patronising saying that, but. I think
that's exactly how it is.
Maybe a more experienced ref wouldn't have given that, but it's just annoying that having not got sent off the same player, and don't get me started on Match of the Day because I watched that with interest, and they were just collectively ass kissing Darwin Nunes basically saying, "Oh, he had a great day, he had a great day." Well, okay. No, he didn't really. And saying it was never a red card. I mean, there's one angle with the red card challenge where it looks like he's actually somewhere near the ball, but there's no intention to play the ball at all. So I think he was a very lucky boy, but I'm not surprised that it went the way it did.
Steve, your views on those, just for the full house?
Yeah, I think it's a red. I think it's. But ultimately, it's probably one that the ref's got to give immediately. But I mean, he's literally right there. It's right in front of him. Walker-Peters has already knocked the ball 5 yards ahead of Nunes, and Nunes has basically decided, well, I'm just going to hoof you. He's kicked him as hard as he possibly can from behind, kicked him up in the air. And I mean, if you're not going to give a red card, if you're going to give a red for sort of serious foul play, sort of when the ball's gone, that is kind of the dictionary definition of that offence for me. And it's just soft refereeing, soft VAR again, because they don't want to force the guy to overturn it and make him look silly, and because he'll obviously be the one that's on the volley of abuse from the stands and the home dugout. As for the penalty, I mean, they keep rolling out this new phrase, contact with consequence. And I mean, there's a fraction of contact, But the consequence of Nunez going down and clutching his ankle as if he's been stamped on and as if his ankle's hanging off in like by its tendons.
It doesn't
not having
relate
that.
to the contact, does it?
No, not in the slightest. And
no correlation.
And actually, even though the referee has fallen for it at the time, even having taken a good few seconds to look at it and think, "Ooh, am I gonna be the guy that gives Liverpool a penalty in front of the cop?" Yes, damn right I am. Having been that guy, the VAR should be telling him, the contact that has been made does not remotely relate to the way that he's gone down like a sack of shit. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, that should have been overturned. Nunez, I mean, he shouldn't have been on the pitch to have done that in the first place. I mean, at the end of the day, still playing 10 men against Liverpool at Anfield, you would still expect they would have the quality to find a way through. But at least if we'd lost them, we lose on our own terms. And it does feel as if we've been mugged out of what would have been, I mean, the greatest result of the season for pretty much any team, I would have said.
And then, of course, we're denied the excitement of chasing an equaliser with the third penalty, or the third goal, the second penalty. No excuses really from Sugawara, was there, Glenn? That was just, we got the subs ready to come on. You got Tall Paul's about to come on. You think we might be able to throw something at this and maybe get a point, and then it's just crap again.
I mean, we're talking about Uric having a half decent day. If you've got Walker-Peters and Sugawara on the pitch, 99% and they're playing on the same side, 99% of people would put Sugawara in front of Walker-Peters, as in further up the pitch. Because this is another thing about knowing your players. I mean, he said something about Will Smallbone afterwards, about his, the fact that he's not the most physical, athletic, whatever. But Sugawara is a terrible defender. He basically has no composure whatsoever. Defending is about consistency and having composure, and he has none. As soon as he is under any pressure at all, he just panics and does something stupid. I mean, I highlighted it a week ago, 2 weeks ago against Chelsea, where he just tried to smash the ball off a Chelsea player whilst facing directly towards our goal. It's just madness. He's given away the handball at home to Liverpool, and he was under a little bit of pressure from Diaz, but Diaz was, Sugawara was in between Diaz and the ball. It's just basic shield.
For once, his positioning was actually good.
Yeah, and but not only did he shove the ball with his hand, he then passed it towards the penalty spot. and Ramsdale was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And Harwood-Bellis had to get himself injured, clattering into a tackle as well. So. I mean, that was good play by Harwood-Bellis to react to that. But he's an absolute train wreck anytime he's put under any pressure defensively. And so to bringing him on to play right back in a back four is just a nightmare. Play him; he's good going, he's decent going forward. So I know Walker-Peters got beat for the first goal, but that was really good play by Diaz, and that happens occasionally, but. Yeah, Sugawara defensively, it's just the most predictable thing that he's going to struggle, and to give away another goal like that. And I mean, I was watching it, and it's just, I saw it as a foul, as a handball in real time. I'm not complaining about VAR in the slightest on that. I mean, when boom, have it. I mean, it's like very, 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 very obviously a penalty, and Mo Salah covered up another poorish performance against us by smacking 2 penalties into the top corner, which is more or less what he did. More or less what he did at St Mary's. But I guess it's just rewinding to what we were saying earlier. I guess it's a positive. We only let in 1 goal from open play at Anfield, and that's that's
didn't
arguably
part like the Red Sea, did we?
No, No, and we didn't make it easy for them to score their goals, which has been a criticism that we've had all season.
That's all we were asking for, really. A couple of other bits, I guess. We were told that it's Grombeck, isn't it? He couldn't play in the same position, or he could only play the same position as Fernandes, so we wouldn't see them in the same team. But that seemed to change. Alfie, I know you mentioned it briefly earlier, but just like that front, was it front two, front three? I thought Fernandes and none at times. I thought Fernandes actually had a decent game as well, so it was. That might be something we see again.
Every week. Yeah, I mean, like I say, they shouldn't change that team now, really, bar any. Jan Bednarek obviously came up with a concussion sub, but Ivan said that this is a 6-day rule, so he thinks he'll be back and available for the first day against Wolves next week. Although, I mean, Amo-Ameyaw did actually pretty well, so there's no real reason to change the team for me. I think it would be tinkering for no reason. But yeah, I think what Grombeck did most importantly was he added a lot of energy, and he was all over the pitch, like everywhere, like haranguing players. I don't remember seeing too much of him in terms of creativity, but he might have had a couple of moments that I missed. But it was mainly just that sort of determination, hard work, and getting all over the pitch, which we need at this point. One of the things Ivan said before the game was that he was asked about, obviously, the results, and he's obviously not happy about them. But he said, I'd be very happy with 0-0. In any game, I'll be very happy with 0-0. And so I think that this sort of 4-6-0, I think will continue, and I think Grombeck is, a very key part of that defensively, more so than he is an attacking player. So yeah, we could be seeing some 0-0s maybe.
Yeah, but we're going to get onto the Wolves game. You can't go 4-6-0 against Wolves at home.
I think he might
can't do it.
I think he might.
Yeah, you can't do it. You can't do it. I hate this no striker rubbish. It's like you're giving in. I've hated it all season. Russell Martin tried it, hated it then.
Yeah.
I don't like it. You've got to have some pressure put on there. I mean, it was all right in the first half. It worked okay, but once Liverpool upped the pace, it was just ridiculous. The good bit of analysis they did do on Match of the Day was the fact that all 11 of our players were boxed in to an area that was about 30 yards square, and you've got to be able to at least give the defender something to think about. You can't do that in a home game, but like you say, he probably will.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of questions about Flynn Downs, so I thought we'll just quickly address that.
Did we find out about that? Yeah, was there any word on why he wasn't in?
Yeah, no, he was at Anfield. He was with the squad. He was the spare man. It's purely a selection. He's just not as good as Adam Lallana and Will Smallbone, I guess, is the verdict. And don't forget that he had all his midfielders back, right? So he had Leslie Ugochukwu back. Obviously, Will Smallbone started. He had Adam Lallana back for the first time in a few weeks, and Aribo was on the bench as well because he didn't play at centre back. So he had 4 centre midfielders. It wasn't like he was being left out completely. But Flynn Downs was there at Anfield. He was with the squad. He just wasn't selected.
That's nuts, isn't it, Glenn? I mean, to
my mind, it is. But I mean, managers. I mean, I'll give him a bit of a pass on that one. I mean, I totally disagree with him. But if that's the manager's choice, then Flynn Downs has not been outstanding. I mean, I can't understand why Joe Aribo didn't start ahead of Will Smallbone on the face of it.
Yeah.
But that was a manager's call, and he did kind of get that one right. I mean, it's certainly not what I'd have done, but it doesn't matter what I'd have done, to be honest. So I mean, if Flynn Downs had been excellent and he left him as 21st man or whatever it is, then I'd had something to say about it. But that's it's a bit of a strange one, bearing in mind Lallana, as we know, is only. I mean, he played 20 minutes, so that would probably be the last we see of him before he retires, because he's only ever lasted 5 minutes up till now. So I'd be interested to see whether he's actually fit for next week. But yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. He clearly doesn't rate Flynn Downs at all, and it seems that he holds a grudge for a while.
They've made up. They've kind of kissed and made up, but maybe not
a little bit.
Not all his.
Yeah, I mean, Bella Kotchap was nowhere. Then he was on the bench, unused for 10 games, whatever it was, and now he's trusted. So I think it's probably just an extension of that, because he had Leslie Ugochukwu available this week because we weren't playing Chelsea, and he changed the formation, so Joe Aribo could be considered a midfielder. He probably just thinks that's that's where he stands in the pecking order right now.
And it was a quiet afternoon again for Tyler Dibbling, Steve. I know he's sort of struggled a bit since he's come back from his injury, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I still maintain we rushed him back, and there's some after effects of that. I mean, that knock he got at Old Trafford, we were told 4 to 6 weeks, and within 2.5 weeks, he was back in the first team, expected to basically beat the entirety of Burnley's slightly sort of reshapen 11 on his own. And yeah, surprisingly enough, he's looked a little bit leggy. I mean, obviously there's a lot of outside noise with Tyler as well, isn't there? I mean, difficult to know. I mean, I've never spoken to the kid, so I don't know whether he's able to kind of shrug that sort of speculation and context off and kind of just blank it all out or not. I've no idea. So it may be that some of the speculations get into him a little bit. It may just be that he's a 19-year-old kid and he's just knackered from his first ever Premier League season, where he's played an awful lot more minutes than I think he would have expected, a lot more minutes than anybody else in the football club would have expected or would have liked, I think, because you would like to be able to ease a player like him in relatively gently. But we've kind of saddled him with the responsibility basically since he had that first start against Man United and tore Diego Dallo a new one for 40 minutes. He's been the go-to guy, and I mean, eventually other teams work out how to defend against him. Some choose to kick him up in the air, others choose to double mark. And unfortunately, we've not been good enough to use that sort of situation to our advantage elsewhere on the pitch. So yeah, I think probably a combination of a few things, unfortunately.
Anything else on Liverpool before we do Player of the Week?
I'll just say, did anybody watch the pre-match press conference by any chance?
No.
I mean, I think I can't. Forgive me if I've got his name wrong. I think it's Jeremy Langdon from Sky Sports, but it was just.
Oh God! What sort of nonsense question did he?
Well, no,
it
wasn't necessarily that. It was the most sort of brutal assault of 10 successive questions that I've really ever heard, and I thought Ivan Juric handled it well, but it was brutal. It was like it was questions like, "What do you seriously think you have a chance against Liverpool?" Or do you really have the players to do this? Why have you not changed your system? Do you really think what you're doing is going to work? And I was just sat there like, wow, fair play. I mean, you question him, fair enough. And he answered it with class. And, that budget's for. If anybody watched it, they'll know what I'm talking about. It was ruthless.
I bet he can't wait to get out, to be honest.
The thing is, I honestly think that I know a couple of people have sort of said to me, I think he took the job and he doesn't care and he just wants his sort of payday until the end of the season and he goes off into the sunset. He probably would have been paid more if he just sat on his backside getting paid by Roma. So I don't think that's true. But I think he will be genuinely disappointed it hasn't worked. It's just, in some ways, it's his own fault. It's just taken this long to work out that the players couldn't do what he wanted to do. But I think he is somebody who actually genuinely does want to do well. And in the back of his head, I think he genuinely hopes and believes that he could still be here next season. So I don't think it's a case of him sort of riding off into the sunset all happy. But yeah, he's just made some mistakes.
Well, he changed his system, didn't he? And if the previous manager had done that, then we might not be as cut as we are now.
And the thing is, and we talk about, you asked Steve earlier about why has the penny finally dropped now? Well, the thing is, with Ivan, the penny dropped after Brighton. But he then went back to the same thing against Chelsea. It was so. Would you remember after Brighton, he said, I've got to adapt. My players can't do this. And then 2 days later at Chelsea, before the game, he said, no, we're gonna give it another go. We're gonna try. And then obviously, Chelsea weren't clinical. But I mean, Cole Palmer was 1-on-1 about 6 times in the first 10 minutes. And it was the same story again. And now the penny's finally dropped 10 days later. But you think, he realised that 2 weeks ago. Why is it taken till now?
But I think part of that was obviously where there was such a tight turnaround between Brighton and Chelsea. They'd have had, at most one training session. So I kind of have a little bit of sympathy with him in that sense, because then after Chelsea, you've then had this 11-day window where he's been able to, okay, right, that Brighton one was a mess. So let's rip that up and let's go with this. And yeah, I mean, we've seen that there was a little bit of structure there now. So maybe now, I mean, what we got one midweek game left this season, which is Palace. Maybe Fulham gets moved if they get to the semi-final. Yeah. And other than that, we are weekends only for the rest of the season. So there should be enough time to work on this system and make sure that there is a solid base, regardless of who we're coming up against. And let's be honest, we're not going to play against a team as good as Liverpool for the rest of the season at all. Arsenal and City have got to come to us, but I mean, as we've seen over the course of the season, they are a level down from Liverpool this season.
And the Arsenal game would be a dead rubber anyway, wouldn't it? Is that the last game?
There'd be nothing. Yeah, there'd be nothing on that at all.
Oh, with our home form, they'll be absolutely terrified.
5-5 draw.
Let's do player of the week, shall we? Go on, Glenn. Do you want to?
Player of the week.
What are you going to say about Arsenal?
No, I was just going to say how terrified they're going to be coming to Fortress St Mary's with 8 defeats in a row or something like that. Yeah, I'm sure they'll be proper pupping it, waiting for that one. Player of the week. There were a number of players that played well. I'm going to say Taylor Harwood-Bellis.
Okay.
I thought, yeah, I just. You've got more responsibility in a back four. You can't pass things on to other people. You've got to do the job. I've said this plenty of times before. There's no question when the ball's in your section of the pitch, then you have to go and do the defending. There's no backup behind you. You have to do it. And he just looked so much more comfortable in a back four. And I thought he was pretty impressive all game. So I'll go with him.
Anybody else? I mean, Ramsdale's won obviously for the last 2 weeks on void vote, so he's tied with Tyler Dibling now at 6 wins this season so far. So I'm going to say Ramsdale again, just because there was a couple of decent saves in there, and he couldn't do much about
that one. That one from Elliott at the start of the second half was excellent because it came through bodies, and he kind of got his lower arm to it as opposed to his hand. So the reaction time for that was excellent.
Does Manning or Fernandes get a shout as well this week?
Ryan Manning certainly does from me.
Yeah, I'd throw Manning in.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got Harwood-Bellis, Ramsdale, Manning.
And Fernandes again, I guess.
Well, Smallbone, surely.
And Smallbone for scoring the goal, yeah. All right.
Well, I mean, the thing to think with Smallbone, obviously, I mean, he got rid of his social media a year, 2 years ago now, I think it was, off the back of a load of absolute idiots in our fan base, and the same is happening again. Only this time it's actually in the ground, which is ludicrous. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, where you got the sort of mental scenario where a kid who literally is one of us and is getting absolute dog's abuse every single week, but he's a guy who clearly cares and wants to do well. It's not his fault that the manager's has been putting him in systems and positions that are exposing him. It's not like he's doing it deliberately. Yeah. And yet you've got other players who have made their intentions very, very clear in terms of where they see their futures, with them very much not being with us, and yet they get a hero's welcome when they set foot back on the pitch for the first time in 18 months. It's mental, some of the mental gymnastics that some of our fans go through at times with these sort of things. And I think Smallbone to have been able to kind of still get through all the nonsense that's going on, and to put in a pretty good performance, I would say, against the best team in the country, possibly the best team in Europe, speaks volumes for the character that he's got, I think.
That's a good enough argument for me. So let's go with Smallbone, we'll go with Manning, we'll go with Ramsdale, and we'll go with Harwood-Bellis then for this week's little vote, and we'll see where we get with that. Now, if there's one thing the team owe us this season, it's a half-decent performance at home, and it has to be this weekend. Surely Wolves, the visitors, on Saturday afternoon. You mentioned the Arsenal performance earlier, Glenn, and I was thinking back, we had that vaguely positive performance, didn't we, at Arsenal back towards the start of the season, and we were able to follow that up, actually, I think, with the point. I'm sure it might have been the Brighton game, maybe. Do you think we'll be able to do the same this weekend? Do you think we can follow it up?
History would suggest not. but I mean,
this is a new side. This is a manager that's abandoned his principles.
Well, maybe. Well, let's see, shall we? One swallow does not make a summer and all that. And I'm not sure that was even a swallow that I saw against Liverpool. But if the Derby record and not being the worst Premier League team of all time is important to anybody, then we 100% have to treat this as our cup final for the season and go for it. We're playing a team who are not very good, and their best player, the only player who raises them above the 3 teams that are going to go down is not playing. So we absolutely have to take advantage of this. If only to prolong. I mean, I guess it prolongs the agony if we win. If we lose this one, I mean, Wolves are the only team that anyone can feasibly catch who are not in the bottom 3.
I mean, they're in a mini league of their own, which is extraordinary.
Yeah.
They're 6 points above Ipswich and Leicester,
10 points
behind West Ham, who played.
So,
I mean, and that could be 13 tomorrow.
Are they going to stay up with less than 30
mental.
points?
oh, they
possibly.
could.
I mean, they could
do.
definitely. Yeah, they don't need 30 to stay up. That's for sure.
But the point is that if we
They
get
can declare now.
if we get beaten by them, then relegation and mathematical relegation is going to come around pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be looking at dead rubber games for the last 8 games or something like that. And so, yeah, we have to treat this as our cup final, as pathetic as that sounds. You know, they've stayed out of it. They had new manager bounce when they got rid of Gary O'Neill, and they won a few games, and that has kind of kept them out of the out of the bottom 3, along with the total inadequacy of the 3 promoted sides. So I mean, I work with a load of Bournemouth fans, and they actually lost at home to Wolves because they had a player sent off basically. And one of the lads was saying Wolves they thought Wolves were worse than us. They were terrible in that game, but they managed to they managed to win it. You know, just because just fortunate because of the red card and whatnot. So I mean, I look at Wolves' team; they've got some half decent players. Ait-Nouri at left back, he's horrible. He dives everywhere. The whole Wolves team dives everywhere. So you're hoping the referee keeps on top of it.
How many injuries do we reckon Jose Sarr will have?
Oh yeah,
6,
I mean
6, 7, maybe.
The dark arts.
It's just a horrible team to play against because they're at it from the first whistle. So I mean, I think we have to maintain our physicality all game and make sure we're kind of in their faces. I think fans, this is a game where the fans can play a big part. Making noise to try and influence referees when they're, when Wolves are diving about. I mean, this is as close to to a game of any importance that we have between now and the end of the season. So
that and Leicester, I think.
Yeah, I just hope that he goes into it. That he sticks to a back 4, no man-to-man rubbish. I strongly believe you actually have to pick a striker. If we rock up 4-6-0 again, I'll just think I'll cry. I'll go home or something.
Or both.
We have to have a plan to score a bloody goal. Otherwise, we're not going to win. Have to go into this game to win it. There's just, if we can't win this one, then there's a very, very good chance we're going to finish below Derby's record. So keep the physicality going all game. They got a centre forward. I actually quite like him, Strand Larsen. He's a bit of a throwback. He's what we think Onuachu should be. Yeah, he's a bit of an extremely pound shop Haaland type of player, but he's not. He's not bad, and he would probably do a good job in our team. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for Bella Kotchap to be playing against him. But I'm sure that whoever we play at centre back will be able to deal with it. Oh, we got to have a word about Mario Lemina, haven't we? Because
is he out?
No, he's gone. He's gone altogether. It's a player that I always laugh at the memory of him because he was. I just hated him. I hated him right from the first minute. Hated him, and he got made captain by Gary O'Neill at the start of this season, didn't he?
That was weird, wasn't it? Really weird.
New manager comes in, and the first thing he does is like, "Well, you're not captain anymore, and you're going to go in January. See you later."
And then he starts scrapping with everybody else, didn't he? He was teammates.
I know. Just a horrible example of an entitled modern day footballer who thinks he's better than he is. And that's one thing Wolves have got right this season is getting rid of him eventually.
Well, that's something in common when we're chatting to Wolves fans in the pub before the game. Then we can bring that up. Alfie, if I look back at the Molineux game, it was 2-0, wasn't it? And was that Manning's disallowed goal? Was that?
Yeah, it was a robbery.
I knew there was a bad feeling about that one, but aside from that, I mean, as Glen said, they beat Bournemouth, they beat Villa, but then it's just been a bit hit and miss.
Yeah, I mean, that was the biggest, the worst one of the season, but that was also at a time when we kept on getting done by VAR. It feels like VAR has not really been a talking point until now, sort of since Russell Martin went. I mean, Glenn makes the ultimate point about Wolves is that they haven't got Mateus Cunha, and he is their sole best player. Without doubt, he's the one that could move to someone like Arsenal in the summer. A world-class player.
Would they want him with his attitude, though? The way he keeps getting sent off and his emotional state, it's... I mean, you put him into the pressure atmosphere of a top club that's expected to win stuff, and I don't see how he fits that, because he's a lunatic.
Well, I think true. But there's about 10 top clubs trying to buy a striker this summer, and there aren't many strikers out there. So I think someone's going to take a punt on him. Maybe Ivan Toney will come back from the Saudi league or something like that. But he is a good player. And didn't he score a ridiculous goal in the game at Molineux as well?
Yeah,
wasn't his out of the area,
which was also a foul.
Oh yeah, on Cameron Archer in the building.
Twice.
Fernandez. Yeah. I mean, that was. Do you know what? Actually, interestingly, sort of harking back to Liverpool game this weekend a little bit, but I was having a conversation with George on the way back from Anfield, and just sort of got onto the game of me recounting sort of every single game we played this season from day one and sort of where we are now. And I was able to accurately say every single game and pretty much the score of every single game under Russell Martin and the first few of Ivan Juric with ease. Then after about 3 or 4 games of Ivan Juric, I couldn't tell you a single match that's happened. I could tell you the opponents we played, but I couldn't tell you what
it was 4-0 probably.
Well, that's right. Yeah, 3-1 or 4-0, one or two. But the point being that those sort of last 8 games under Ivan Juric have just become absolute sludge, like just grey sludge, and nothing's changed. There's no narratives. Everyone hates every player. We're going down. At least back then when it was Wolves, I cared. Do you know what I mean? I still obviously care as part of my job, but so it's nice to have this one, which is maybe in some ways important. And like Glenn says, if they can get 3 points here, then we can sort of write the season off as done. Everyone's happy, almost, and then we're all good.
I'll tell you what, it's fun being in the car with you and George, isn't it?
Yeah. So not a particularly exciting game, but it's 8 hours round trip, so you get a bit desperate.
Long journey back. Steve, I guess Bella Kotchap might be on standby for this one if Bednarek's not okay. This 6-day rule, does that mean they can't train for 6 days or can't play?
Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah. It's interesting the different protocols that different sports utilise for concussion, and it was interesting that we actually used the concussion sub on Saturday, because the knock-on effect of that meant that Liverpool were then allowed to bring on 6 subs themselves. Yeah. So what teams were doing when this rule first came in 2 or 3 years ago was they basically weren't. They weren't, even when a player clearly went off with a head injury, they weren't using it as a concussion sub unless they'd already made all their allotted substitutions. Teams didn't want to give up an additional sub to the opposition for fear of it basically being able to actually use it in a calm and sort of meticulous way and use it to hurt them. And actually, kind of Liverpool did. I don't know whether Slot would have still made a triple sub if he only had 5 substitutions available to him rather than 6. So yeah, it just kind of, didn't have any impact on anything, but I would be surprised if he's available for Saturday, given the way the protocol works. And
Ivan Juric said he thinks he will be, so I think he will. If it's 6 days, he'll play him. He's his captain.
He'll want to play, won't he?
Yeah, he'll play.
But every player would want to play, but ultimately, you've got to...
No, I don't think that's true. I think the only reason he wouldn't play is if he doesn't want to play. I think if he says he doesn't want to play, he won't. But if he can play, which Ivan Juric says is 6 days, then Ivan Juric will play him. I'm sure of that. It'll be Bednarek's choice if he doesn't.
Yeah, I kind of think sometimes in these circumstances, players need to be saved from themselves. If he has any sort of actual sort of concussion symptoms, then you shouldn't... From a player welfare perspective, you shouldn't be taking a risk on this. Kind of effective cup final or no cup final shouldn't really come into it. Is the player fit to play? Is it safe for him to go out there and possibly get bashed on the head again?
I just want to read out an email that we had in, and I want you to bear this in mind when we're reluctantly heading towards St Mary's at the weekend. This is from Morris, who says, I'm an American fan of Southampton. Your podcast is one of the ways I follow the club, so I just wanted to say a big thank you. to be making my first visit to Southampton and my first visit to England, for that matter, on March the 15th for the game against Wolves. It's been a rough season. There's an understatement. But I'm still excited to finally see the team in person. I started rooting for Southampton back in 2011. At the time, I wanted to adopt a club to root for to help me learn more about football. Growing up as a typical American, I experienced football on a recreational youth level, but it was otherwise ignorant about the sport. Being a sports fan in general, I decided to develop an appreciation for football, and I chose Southampton as the team to root for along the way. I think we're all shouting the same things, Morris. We're all shouting the same things. We didn't have a choice. It's only taken me 14 years to make it there in person. Again, I just want to say thank you for helping me have a connection to the club from very far away. Morris, I hope for your sake that they put in a shift on Saturday and you enjoy your first visit to England, your first time at St Mary's, first time watching it. I mean, what a season to make the journey. But will Morris have anything to cheer? Let's do a few score predictions for this. I mean, last time we had the Arsenal game, we kind of followed up with a 1-1. So I was thinking maybe a 1-1. I think maybe a point. Steve, do you want to go first?
Yeah, that was exactly the way I was heading as well. Okay. I think as much as Cunha being out is a huge bonus for us. I mean, Wolves do have some other threats, and we are still crap at the back. So I still think a clean sheet is out of the question. But we should be able to test them a little bit more. I think Juric's system will. I mean, assuming we kind of play. I mean, in a sort of defensive structure in a similar way that we did on Saturday, but with a little bit more attacking impetus as the home team. I think against a side only 3 places above us, I think you've got to be. But I think in that sort of system, you can't. In fact, you kind of look back to that West Ham game on Boxing Day. Look back at the way we played that game. That's the way we should be playing Wolves, I think, because defensively they struggle with crosses into the box. They've conceded silly number of goals from set pieces over the last 2 years. So they're obviously not particularly well organised defensively. Somehow we let them have a clean sheet without a shot on target up at Molineux. So yeah, that for me is the way to go about trying to beat these guys. I think we can beat them. But it depends on getting that team selection right. And I think for the last 2 or 3 months, probably. I think we look at the team sheet at quarter 2, and you're looking at it and think, why has he done that? And there's always one selection that looks completely rogue, and it's why I've fallen down off the pace on the club app on the team predictor game. But yeah, there's always one or two that's a little bit rogue. I just want him to pick play our most comfortable system and pick our best players for it. Just a simple ask, just for this week. Just try it out, see what happens. Maverick concept, I know, but
you can always go back to form if it doesn't work. But give it a go.
Well, quite. And yeah, so I think, I think if we do that, we've got a decent chance, I think. But yeah, I mean, there's always that lingering thing of getting done on the break because they're pretty quick in transition. They've got 2 or 3 players who are quite nimble on that side of things. Glen mentioned Aït-Nouri earlier. He's a problem, but up against Walker Peters, hopefully Walker Peters can kind of nullify him and leave
yeah. But the problem with that is that it's not just Aït-Nouri, is it? Because obviously he plays as a left wing back, so you've still got that that Bellegarde to deal with. So you'd imagine that Bellegarde will be, if he plays, will be whoever's there will be Carl Walker Peters' man. So Aït-Nouri is kind of a free man in that role. And does that mean that Tyler Dibling's constantly pinned back, or so that is one of the key areas to watch.
Yeah,
so I put you down for a 1-0, am I, Steve?
Yeah, 1-0, I think.
Okay, Glenn.
It worries me how Juric is going to send a team out to try and win a game. It genuinely worries me. If he picks a striker, then obviously there's going to be one less midfielder. He's going to pick Will Smallbone again, and it worries me that in a home game, I just feel that the team will be too strung out if we're not. And we won't be as compact. I can see problems with him trying to win a game at home. So I'm not overly optimistic. If he goes, oddly enough, if he goes for this 4-6-0 thing and plays the same team that he played, I think the game will be absolutely god awful. But we've
We might get a 0-0 out of it.
Probably got some sort of chance of getting something out of it. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm not contradicting what I said earlier there. I think you have to go into games with a striker, but I think if he does, and he picks the players that we suspect he's going to pick, that will have problems. I mean, I would just love it if they're going to play two midfielders and four sort of attack-minded players, including the wingers. I think you've got to have Leslie Ugochukwu and Flynn Downs, or if not Flynn Downs, at the very least Joe Aribo in there.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to do that. So so it worries me a little bit. I find this one really difficult. 0-0 is a possibility, but that's us keeping a clean sheet, so it's probably not going to happen. 1-0 means us scoring a goal. which I mean, we scored at the weekend, I suppose. So I'll Steve's already nicked 1-1. So what the hell? Based on no logic whatsoever, I'll go for a 1-0 win.
A 1-0 win. This is not looking good for Morris, who's coming over from America, is it? Maybe in the chat we should do like other things you could do on a Saturday afternoon instead. Alfie, score from you.
Yeah, I'll go for the Ivan Juric's favourite result in football, the 0-0 draw.
0-0. Right. If you're watching along live, stick those predictions into the comments. Any other bits before we finish? I guess since we were last on, the Sun reported that obviously we're going to be in for Danny Rowe. I thought, was it you this week, Glenn, that made a good point that teams like ours and where we are at the moment, they're not in the business of writing clickbait. So there must be something in that, because it's not going to generate huge amounts of traffic online. But
I mean, it's not exactly a wild leap of imagination, is it? I mean, I question why the story came up now. So I'm guessing that the journalistic question had a whisper from someone, but it does. So I mean, there is that. You might be thinking there's definitely something in it, but at the end of the day, it appeared in the Sun, so that.
Yeah,
I'm not saying anything controversial there.
But ultimately, they did go for him in December, so that's the other thing.
Yeah, this is what I mean. It's not exactly a leap of faith.
Not a secret,
Ivan Juric, after he's won one game in 10, so it wouldn't be a surprise if he got sacked. Danny Rowe, they approached him earlier on in the year. He is obviously not happy with the way things are going at Sheffield Wednesday, with the perceived lack of support from the chairman and all that. So, yeah, I mean, and there's the obvious connection between Johan Spors and Danny Rowe from Leipzig days, I believe it was. So, yeah, I mean, it generated a little bit of interest in Southampton, and I'm sure Sheffield Wednesday fans who like the manager would have been boiling a little bit having seen that, but I don't think it makes it any more or less likely that report coming out, and it wouldn't really be a surprise if that's the way it turned out.
I think he'll probably be a top target, if not the top target. But I think the thing that sort of was being said in December was that Chansiri is a nightmare to work with and to work for, but to work with as well, in terms of, and if they've already made this approach, there's going to be this whole compensation debate again, which we got into with Russell Martin about a Premier League team or a Championship team, which one has to pay what. And obviously, if they've made an approach in December, as a Premier League team, can you then make an approach in June as a Championship team and pay the Championship compensation? Or technically, did your approach start when you were a Premier League team? So I'm sure Chansiri is going to make that an absolute nightmare if they go for him. So that's probably one of the things.
He'll be tapping up the same lawyers that Swansea used.
Yeah.
I can't imagine for a second that Sport Republic would make the same mistake twice. I mean, can't imagine that would happen.
That feels like a good place to finish. Is there anything?
Well, I mean, there is one more thing. Yeah. We did want to mention. It's only a little footnote, but the academy obviously doing unbelievably well. And if anybody wants
right.
to sort of go to their games, you might actually see a win, because the under-21s are fourth in England in the Premier League. They're fourth in the division with 3 games to go. They've got a game at St Mary's at the start of April, and they're going to qualify for the Premier League 2 playoffs. But the under-18s, exceptionally, they're second in the under-18 Premier League South, if I can say my words. I mean, remember, they won that league about 3 years ago with Tyler Dibbling, with Jimmy J. Morgan, with Cammy Doyle, Cam Bragg, Don Ballard. And also a lot of those players have gone on to be good. And they're going to, they've got a game in hand on Crystal Palace. They're 1 point off the top. They could win that again as well. And there's a lad who's 18 years old called Nick Oyekunle. I may have butchered his name. I apologise to him. He's got 22 goals in 18 Premier League under 18 games this season, which is outrageous. So I just wanted to give the young lads and the coaches a bit of a shout out, really, because in a season where we've not had much to be positive about, the young boys are doing really well.
The signs are there. Shoots for the future. Of course, the other news, Steve, was that the women's manager went, which not unsurprising given that they got rid of half the team. Seems a bit do the job with one hand tied behind your back, and then when the results aren't going, off you pop. Do you think there might be more to it than that?
I mean, possibly. I mean, I kind of think, well, if that's what you're going to do, I mean, we're not going down. I mean, Pompey actually got their first win at the last weekend away at Sheffield United. So at least them coming to St Mary's the weekend after next, that's not going to be the sort of proper hoodoo sort of doomsday scenario that we feared a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, it's odd timing. I mean, just think, well, why don't you just wait to the end of the season? That's a natural time to clear things out. Whereas now you've got this sort of sticky run to the end of the season where Marianne Spacey-Kell, who stepped upstairs for a reason at the end of last season, is now coming back into to a much weaker squad, and is I mean, presumably she won't put a huge amount of expectation on herself. She's not going to sack herself if she doesn't win a game between now and the end of the season. But it doesn't feel like an environment at the moment that's geared up towards looking upwards. Now, I know there's a lot of nonsense going on with talk of scrapping relegation for a few years because they want to push the Super League up to 16 teams. It's 12 currently. So what they're proposing is to basically have no relegation for 4 years, and you continue with the same promotion from the Championship during that period, which is nonsense. I mean, surely the logical thing to do there, because otherwise teams at the bottom are just going to get stale, and they'll be just like, well, why are we? There's no point in us throwing any money at it. We might as well just bob around at the bottom of the table, and then once relegation reopens again, then we have to kind of get our ship in order. But what they should be doing is 1 down, 2 up if they want to expand the league, because then you've then got if you've got 12 to 16 teams in the league, only having 1 team going out at either end is ridiculous. Because you get to Christmas and there are teams that have literally got nothing to play for. It's pointless, and used to see it in Scottish football a lot, which is why they brought in the sort of split divisions and the convoluted playoff systems and all this to kind of make it a little bit interesting. And yeah, I think they're gonna have to go down that route to make that division remotely interesting at the moment, and possibility that we get left behind with some of the teams that are throwing some fairly silly money at the game at the moment.
It's going to be another summer reset, Glenn, isn't it? And we had that last time.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Well, I think we covered this before. It all seemed a bit shambolic in the summer when Remy Allen joined, because there was like a 3-month gap between Marianne announcing she was going upstairs, basically, and Remy Allen coming in. And in that time, a lot of experienced players left and that weren't really replaced. So it's been a bit of a holding pattern season, and it hasn't really gone anywhere. And we touched a few weeks ago on the fact that the transfer window involved bringing in a load of WSL teenagers who obviously will be players of great promise, but how you get an army of loan players in, how committed are they to your club? And that's what we care about as Southampton supporters. And it's nice for Arsenal if we're giving giving these women games in the championship. But is there a chance of signing any of these players later on? There doesn't seem to have been a lot of thought gone into this. You would have assumed that Remy Allen bought into this idea of bringing in a load of these young players, and then I think 2 games later she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And as usual with the women's game, there's no real definitive, why she's left.
Communication is not the best.
No,
is it?
There's nothing. So you just look for clues on social media, and she did put something cryptic. Forgive me, I can't remember exactly what it was. It was along the line. It could be read as there's no magic with no investment or something like that.
Yeah.
There was something that kind of hinted that I've had my hands tied behind my back. What do you expect?
Well,
I think we can see that.
In my limited knowledge.
Exactly. Looking in and not as an expert, admittedly, George handles that for the Echo primarily. But a couple of years ago, I went to a lot of these women's games because they were pushing this idea that they were gonna really push, and they got promoted twice in a couple of years, and they wanted to get to the WSL, and they were investing in play. They're bringing in good players who played at the highest level in women's football, really. And I think that has changed in the last couple of years, and I think obviously we've had to tighten the purse strings with the first team a little bit, and I think they've looked at the spending, and we know that the women's game at the moment is not profitable for clubs, and I think you can see with your own eyes, it doesn't take a genius to work out that investment, that tap has just turned a little bit, it's just turned off a little bit, and they're not pushing to get to WSL in the same way that I felt they were a couple of years ago.
And you think that probably wouldn't change in the summer either with the money and the loss of income and stuff. So we should say, do you think they're going to wait to the summer? Was that the kind of, I missed the news. I assume that Marianne Spacey-Cow is going to
take
the team to the summer.
The sort of suggestion was that, exactly that. Spacey-Cow will take the team until the summer to give them time to properly find a replacement.
Okay. Well, you can follow the Total Saints podcast on all the social media platforms. We're even on LinkedIn now as well, apparently. Just have a search for at Total Saints Pod. You'll find us there. You can check out the new website as well if you've not been on there for a while. That's had a bit of a refresh, and you'll find a link on there to the merch shop, which is shop.totalsaints.co.uk. And as we mentioned right back at the start, we're also on Patreon. That's where you can support the podcast with your monthly contributions. It's very much appreciated. If you support us on Patreon, just head to patreon.com/Total Saints Podcast. And each of the tiers comes with some different perks. There's weekly shout outs at the end of the podcast for all of the patrons in the Francis Benali and the Mick Shannon tiers. So thank you to Dave Melton, Andy Hollis, Anthony Thompson, Gavin Ford, James Harron, Nikki Nicholson, Southampton NY, Drew Dyer and James Kibbe. They're all in the Francis Benali tier. And thanks to Colt Baker, Dave Ernsberger, Nick Hingston, Phil Cook, Nick Reed, Paul Stewart, Phil Horstrup, Matt Hall, Mark Littlewood, Mike Etheridge, James Bobin, John Bevan and Liam Dempsey, who were all in the Mick Shannon tier. Thank you as well to Paul Castle Associates. Thank you to Steamtown Brewery for sponsoring TSP this season. Thank you to Steve, to Alfie and to Glen. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will see you again next Sunday night for the live show at 7 o'clock.